When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
All right, hello YouTube. Welcome back to the Grease Comedy channel. Today's video has kind of been a long time coming, and we're going to talk about who are young Griff's friends in the Reach. There's this line that we get that, you know, young Griff has these friends in the Reach. And so this video is going to be kind of about exploring who that is. There's been a lot of theories on who that could be. Is it the Tyrells themselves? Is it the Tyrells? Is it the Peakes? Is it the Florents? Who are these friends in the Reach? But before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, please do. It helps the channel grow, reach your appeal that might like this content as well. And let's get into it. So I want to start with probably the most likely. Now, the first most likely friend of young Griff is going to be the Peakes. The Peakes have just been shown at multiple times to go against the Targaryens. They're one of the staunchest Blackfire supporters. If you believe that young Griff is a Blackfire, it would make the most amount of sense for the Peakes to be on their side. Like I've talked about, the Peakes are like probably the biggest Blackfire supporters you can have right now in Westeros. So I think there's a lot of evidence that points to them. Again, we've also seen them do their own Peake uprising. I have my own theory as to why they did that rebellion, and it's for a number of reasons. It was kind of like a preemptive strike to get rid of Maekor and some other stuff. But I think the Peakes are very logically could be one. Now, I don't think that they're the only friend. And before I get further into these, if you guys think I'm missing any of them, or you guys think there could be another option, let me know. But let's continue. So the next candidate that I think could be very likely is the Tyrells. The Tyrells are another one of these kind of, they're not the top house, they're kind of a secondary house. And I think the way Randyll Tarly switches and why he would want to switch to maybe young Griff's cause is, one, the Tyrells have kind of not been treated well. Given that he is the best military commander that Mace Tyrell has, he is someone that is kind of wanted to be rewarded. And the big thing that he wanted that the Tyrells did not get was Brightwater Keep. It ended up going to Garland Tyrell instead. Now, this was done because this was the seat of the Florents, and Stannis, well, he and the Florents were off trying to make Stannis king. And so Brightwater Keep was given to someone else. And so that was given to Garland, like I mentioned. And this is something that the Tyrells wanted. So the Tyrells could have felt, or Randyll specifically, could have very well felt like they were not in a good spot there. Or they could have felt like they were shafted, I guess. And so another reason that I think you could see this is, think about the first Blackfire Rebellion. One of the big things of why you would want to go for the Blackfires was because you could gain more power. You could go up in station. So for instance, if we go back in history, we go to Aegon's conquest, the biggest thing with siding with Aegon early was you were going to get a good reward, right? The Tullys and the Riverlands were like the first to join his cause. They ended up getting to control the Riverlands. And so when you look at this, if some house like the Tyrells, maybe the lore could be, young Griff is offering, if you help us, we will make you the Lords of the Reach. That's very interesting, especially when you look at the idea that I think Mace Tyrell has kind of been blowing off Randyll Tarly, not taking him as seriously, not listening to some of his advice. That could be a big reason as to why Randyll Tarly would want to switch sides here. And not even to mention, like, even if he doesn't become Lord of the Reach, the amount of power that he's going to be able to gain off of being someone in a very high command or advising role to someone like young Griff could be really, really great. And so that kind of also gets us to our last house that I really think is a prominent selection, is the idea of the Florents. Now, you might be thinking, why would the Florents do it? They have a lot of ties to Stannis and the Baratheons. Well, I think Stannis at this point's a lost cause, given, you know, if you're a house in the South, if you're someone in the South, and at this point, the Florents have pretty much lost everything. So how do you gain what you've lost? How do you get back Brightwater Keep? How do you get back in the graces of the ruling family? Well, you switch sides. You go to young Griff and you go to the winning side. You pick that winning side. A very similar idea of the first Blackfire Rebellion, like I was talking about. I didn't really get to circle back to that point, but I'll get to it now. is that the big thing with the first Blackfire Rebellion is we saw a lot of secondary houses trying to take over. Because again, the first Blackfire Rebellion, Daemon Blackfire himself did not have any of the support of the actual major houses, right? They didn't have the Tyrells. They didn't have, for instance, the Starks. They didn't have the Lannisters. They didn't have the Baratheons. But they gained a lot of the houses underneath that were trying to rise up in stature. And so that's what you're going to see probably a lot with someone like young Griff. And so the last option that I've kind of talked about a little bit is this possible idea that maybe the Tyrells are the friends in the Reach. And I just don't think so, because I think it's just too obvious. It's like, oh, you know, who do you think of who is in control of the Reach? It's the Tyrells. And I think right now the Tyrells are in an interesting spot. They're in a really like sticky position because Kevin Lannister is going to be dead. Pycelle is going to be dead. But we also know from the Winds of Winter, POV chapters, we know that Mace Tyrell and Rhaenys Tarly are marching to Storm's End. So we know that none of the prominent Tyrells are really going to be in King's Landing at this exact point of the story. And Cersei's going to be probably in power. I think she's going to get command of the Lannisters, of the Lannister forces that Kevin Lannister brought to him, or brought with him to King's Landing. And so you're going to have someone that the Tyrells do not like. She's going to be, again, trying to take away all of the Tyrell power that Kevin Lannister has kind of been using to appease them. She is someone that is going to, again, help destroy that alliance, being pushed forward by Varys, that the Tyrells were behind it. But the weird thing is, if you're the Tyrells, you still are connected to the throne. You're married into the throne right now with Tommen. But if Tommen was to die, well, the Tyrells are kind of free. And I think if you look at the video I did last week, I really do believe Tommen's going to die. I think it just makes logical sense. It depends when Tommen dies, right? Because if it happens too early, the Tyrells could flip, right? Their obligations to Tommen and the crown is over. They could try and move Marjorie with young Griff. Don't know if that's going to happen. I don't think we're going to see it a fourth time with Marjorie trying to marry someone that's a king. I don't think we're going to keep going in that cycle, but they could try. If it happens too late, right? If Tommen dies and it's too late for the Tyrells to kind of get on that young Griff bandwagon with Arianna already marrying him, or maybe even Sansa, the Tyrells are in a weird position, right? Like, and we're also given this situation where I don't think anyone expects Mace Tyrell to beat young Griff. It just doesn't make any sense given the story. It would kind of be like if Dany came over and then her first battle or her first landing, she died instantly. It's like, okay, we had a lot of buildup and payoff just so she could instantly lose. It's just not the way the story's going to go. And when you look at some of the houses that I thought could switch, like the Tarleys, who are going to be with the Tyrells, it's the perfect opportunity to flip sides. Or it could be as simple as this: the Tyrells just wait out the war, right? That's a friendly move to young Griff as well. Not just straight up joining them, but just staying out of the war. That's something that would heavily benefit young Griff. It's something kind of it's something that the Reach always does, staying out of wars and just sitting on the sidelines and picking the winner. Didn't go well in Robert's Rebellion, but usually they're pretty good at it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about kind of the houses that I presented in this video. If you guys think there's more, or a house that maybe I missed or overlooked. I mean, maybe you could be looking at House Hightower at this point. I mean, I didn't even mention them in the video, but I guess I'll talk about them here at the end as I'm doing the outro. We don't know what their motivations are, right? We don't have a lot of insight into what the Hightowers are thinking. And so they could be another house that maybe they split off from the Tyrells, even though I kind of disagree, because the Hightowers are married into the Tyrells. So it's like, whatever the Tyrells do, you think the Hightowers are going to do, but maybe they got their own stuff going on. Maybe they're like, screw it, we're going to go to young Griff's side. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye, guys.